Let's investigate making a Google form. So let's all make a form that contains the same questions, but the trick is we're going to make this different files by each of us giving it a different name. So I would like you to put your form in the computer science shared folder, because that's a very easy way each of us will be able to respond to the other person's form. But we would like the forms to have different names. So let's see if I can make some sense out of that. You will know when you're in drive.google.com, when you are seeing your drive, you will know what folder you're in. If you're in the computer science folder, then you should see the files Welcome to Summer School. Those were the slides that we worked on the first day of class. And Sample 4 shared document that we saw in the previous video. So if you're in the computer science folder, let's do create. And this time let's create a form. And it's asking, are you sure you want to create it in the shared folder? Let's say yes. But now choose a title and a theme. Let's make sure we have different files by using your last name as part of the form. So I'm going to type as my file name Hardkey sample form. So if you put your last name and then something else for your sample form. And then we have a choice of our themes for forms, and many of them are quite simple. We don't really care what our form really looks like. You can see some of them could be used as invitations and so on. So pick whichever one you want to use as your sample form. I'm going to pick header blue, and you'll probably notice how many times you've seen the same Google Forms. So I'm going to pick one of these. You could also pick, every one of us could pick header blue. That would be fine. And then click OK. And you'll see how the title shows up. And then we are immediately asked to just start putting in our questions. And let's all put the same information here so that you'll be able to tell whether it's working. Your next assignment will be for you to design a Google form of your own, and that will be completely unique. But I would like you to see several different types of questions. So first, let's put here for the question, enter your name. That would be a typical first item in a form, unless, of course, you're doing an anonymous type of survey. And the question type that we would want them to be able to type in their answer. So we would choose paragraph text for enter your name. And we have a choice here of a second line if you want to give them some additional help. So you might say, you might show them, for example, whether you want it to be first last or last first, or whether you want a comma between them. So last space first works well. And this is where they're going to be asked to put in their answer. And I'm going to scroll here so you can see that entire question. And this box here, is this a required question? So when you're doing a survey, are you going to allow them to skip over some questions? Well, this clearly is a good choice for a required question. And then when we're done with that question, we can click this box, and then you've got a choice here if you want to add another item. And if you choose this option, add another item, then immediately it asks you which type of question you want. So let's do our next question as a multiple choice format. And again, I'm just going to scroll so that you see the whole question box here. So this, we could label it whatever. Let's put question 2 here. Let's put 2 period. So that we can keep track in the video of where we are. So our multiple choice here, what is the capital of Wisconsin? What is the capital of Wisconsin? question mark. We don't need any help text. That's clearly understood. And we've chosen multiple choice. So now we have to put somewhere in our choices the correct answer, and the others should be distractors. So we'll put Green Bay. And then when we click for the next option, I'll put Madison here so I don't forget to put it in. And then we'll get another option 3. We'll say Milwaukee. And you can put in as many distractors as you wish here. I don't know, what would be another good choice? We'll go with Waukesha. And we'll say that's enough choices. Well, you could maybe put in your favorite none of these as an option. And then we can click done, or, oops, sorry, I dragged the size of my window. Let me get that back here. We can click done, or we can just go to add the next item and what choice of items it's going to be. Oh, I forgot here. I want my users to answer all of these, so I'm going to put required question. If they don't answer the question and they hit the submit button, they'll get the form right back. So you can't submit your forms unless you've answered all of the required questions. All right, let's add another item here. I would like you to see how you make some of these different choices. So check boxes is often a form that you would use if you want to let them pick more than one. So I don't know, we're going to call this is our third question, and let's say check all the colors that you like. So just to have an example here of something, and we'll go with red, blue, green, yellow, and so on. But you get the idea here. And let's see, if we click under advanced settings, you might wonder what that is here. So shuffle the order of the options. That's not going to serve much point here. And data validation. So you could, if you're having them put in answers and they put in something that's not an acceptable choice, that's what's under advanced setting. Okay, so let's we could click done with that question, or we can go on. Choosing from a list, and we'll just do question 4 here. I don't know. Which is the largest value? A pretty simple choice here. Choose from a list. So we'll go with 10, 20, 30, 40. And you can, every time you click, it'll give you an option to put in more. All right, so we'll see how this looks. Notice that there's this advanced option where you can say go to a certain page based on the answer. So if they clicked, so for example, if they said that their age was up to 10 years, then you might skip over the questions that apply only to adults. So if they chose that they were 60 years old, then you might skip over a question that only applied to younger folks. So these advanced options you can investigate at another time. And let's add. And I don't want to do too many of these. Let's do a couple more, though. Let's do scale. So 5. And you've seen this in the previous form that you filled out. From 1 to 5, how much do you enjoy Google Forms? The question type is scale, and you could, by the way, change this so you could have your scale go from 1 to 10 or from 5 to 10. 1 to 5 is acceptable, but you can see how you could change these values from 0 to 4 or 0 to 3. And the labels here are optional, but of course the question is always, well, which one is the good choice and which one is the bad choice? So on a scale of 1 to 5, so 1 would be, for example, not very much. I do not enjoy Google Forms. Option 5 would be our best choice, very much. And this is a required question, and we'll do just one more. The date choice is an interesting choice that comes up quite often, and it's hard to do without using a program like Google Forms. So this is our question 6. Enter today's date so that you would know when your users answered your or completed your form. And you've got a choice whether to include the year. And if you include the year, then this little calendar that you've probably seen on websites will pop up where you can go from month to month, and it'll rotate right through to the next year. Or if you don't include the year, then you can just pull down the days and the months. So you've already seen that option, so let's have this one include the year, even though we kind of think we're going to only use this form in 2014, but let's include the year for sake of seeing how it works. All right, and we'll click Done. And then we've got to decide what we want to do here. So do we want to show a link to someone in order to submit another response when they're finished? So is this a form where they could put in several different answers? When might you do that? For example, if a teacher was having students submit book reports, you might want them to be able to submit the same form for 5 different books. Publish and show a public link so that everyone can see the results of the form. Do you want your users to be able to see the spreadsheet of results? Do you want your responders to be able to go back and edit their responses after submitting? So those are all your choices, and I'm just going to check no for all of them. And then when we click Send Form, it's not, maybe you think it's going to do something more than it actually is. Send Form, though, is where we'd say, who do we want to share this with? With a little bit of practice, we'll be able to check out all of these options. But the first thing that's probably easiest for most of us to see here is that we get a hyperlink. So every Google document will give you a hyperlink, so you can select that and do Control-C to copy it to the clipboard, and then you could go to your to another email to paste it into your Marquette High email, for example, if you're going to send the link to friends who you have their Marquette High addresses. Or you could get the embed code. We're going to actually talk about embedding forms and videos into other files later. Or if you already have contacts available, you can click down here and just send the form to whoever it is via email. So if you have email addresses, or can find them from recent contacts, you could email a message to each person who you want to complete this form. So we've got lots of different options. Remember that we put this form in a shared folder, so everyone in our class should actually be able to see each other's forms. So those are the options that we would have, and the choosing the URL address and being able to put it into any kind of email makes sense, or you could just use the Google email, the Gmail, and it will provide a link that you put in that. So if you want to see how that works, you could put your own email address in there. You could put mine, hardkeycarol@gmail.com, and it will notify whoever it will send an email and notify that they've been asked to answer the questions in this form. And when we're done with this, we can close send. Oops, invalid email. How did I do that wrong? Oh, I have a space here before the C, I think is the only problem. So taking out and fixing that, so I had hardkeycarol@gmail.com. And then when we hit return, you should come up with one more screen that asks you, where do you want your responses to be sent? So you would like to have a new spreadsheet of your responses. Always create a new spreadsheet, does not have to be checked. And then you can click create. And then you can do one more thing here. You could close and come back to this. You can edit it later if you change your mind. But there's a button here where we can view the live form, and you can answer your own questions. So you could go through and notice that since you own this, you can come up here and click this box if you want to edit the form. But as long as we have a live form here, let's go ahead and answer this. And let's, as you go through here, to check out your own form, just make up some data here. So make up some silly name. So this is Smith Tom. Capital of Wisconsin is Green Bay. You can just go through and answer these. You don't have to answer these the same as I am. And blue, largest value in that list, I think 60 is the largest. So you can see how each of these different question formats works. How much do I enjoy Google Form? Well, very much. And today's date, when I click here, you can see how we get this calendar of choices. And we could, so it'll scroll backwards through the months, okay? And I think I just did that a little too fast, so I could fix that, change my mind about it. So I'll say I answered this on April 9th, even though that's not true. And hitting the submit button is how you get your form sent in. And you own the form, so notice that that gave us a tab here. And let's go back to our sample form, which was not the live form, and we can close that out. When we hit the close on this tab, we can go back to our computer science is why this is named this. Remember, we were in our shared computer science form. So here's my Hardkey sample form. And here's where the responses came in. So when you do this, you should have a form with your name on it, and you should have a form that says sample form responses, and I'm going to click on that. You can click on your own, and you'll see I only have one answer so far, but now what I would like us each to do is to go through everyone's forms and quickly give them some responses so that they can see their spreadsheet of responses growing. And that's really about all you need to get started with sample forms.